All right, hello, and welcome to another episode of Baki Talki, specifically episode 5. This is one that I've been looking forward to. There's some real fun stuff that happens in this episode, so we're going to jump right into it. And to help me out, I have my co-host, Scott.
Hi there. Hi. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah,
First podcast in my life, I think.
So, just a few quick questions for the audience to get to know you. Other than Baki, what shows are you watching right now?
Right now, I have not been really watching anything because I've just had way too much going on in the last month or so I haven't been regularly watching any shows. I don't know, I watched a few movies recently. Probably the last show that I was really regularly watching was Oz by HBO from like the 90s, which is a pretty wild ride.
Yeah, my guess was going to be that you weren't watching anything, but I ask everybody that one. And then the second one, just so we have a frame of reference, before watching this episode, what did you know about Baki?
Literally nothing. Like less than zero.
Perfect. All right. I guess they don't reference Baki on any episodes of Oz.
It doesn't really come up that much in any context, really.
Okay, well, perfect. So, this is a crazy episode. We're just sort of gonna talk through what happens as it goes. So, Scott, can you walk me through how the episode starts? I believe Baki and Kozue are having on a date.
I mean, I just learned the lady's name, but he's like, just because they never mentioned the name in the episode, but they're just like walking along in the dark through a park along a path very quietly, and then they start talking about their feelings, I guess, as people do.
Yeah, I've been there.
He's just wearing a t-shirt that just says the word gather, which I noticed, and I was I don't know, I only noticed the second time I watched it, and I was like, that's just a good shirt, I guess. Like, what's the content? What are we gathering? What is this brand?
Maybe that's why they're out in the park. He's like a gatherer. He's looking for berries or things like that.
It could be. Okay. So there's no in-universe logic to this.
I don't think he ever wears that shirt again.
Okay.
I think that's just what he wears on dates. All right. So I saw there was an interesting flashback in that scene. Kozue was talking to Baki. She didn't want him to fight, and was talking about all of, when you fight another man, think of all of the loved ones that he has before hitting him.
I mean, I get that someone might dream of being known as the best and strongest fighter in the world. But what you men don't understand is that every fighter you beat into submission has a wife or a child or a lover. Someone who cares about them.
Baki then, instead of rebutting that, just started making out with her. Do you think that was an effective debate? Do you think Kozue or Baki was in the right there?
I mean, I think you're skipping my favorite line from the episode of I
could get hurt or even die. But win or lose, this is the only choice I have. After 17 years of doing nothing, this is what I've got to do with my life.
Basically, he's like, no, you don't understand. I might die, but that's my choice to make. I don't really care that that you feel this way. Because he says, like, after 17 years of doing nothing, this is the path I've chosen, or something like that.
I think he said it was his only choice.
Yeah. Is he? I'm sorry. Is he a boxer or like an MMA fighter? Like, what is the?
I would say MMA is.
That he's doing?
MMA is the closest. A lot of fighters in this show sort of have like a gimmick. He sort of does everything.
Yeah. Okay.
I knew you when you were 17, Scott. Did you ever feel that after 17 years of doing nothing, you had to choose between going into the underground fighting ring or I don't even know what the other choice would be.
Well, was he? So he is 17 years old.
I think that flashback was like a month ago.
but the thing is, it's like just such a weird way of counting your life. You're like, yes, I was 2, I was doing nothing. I was 5 years old, I was doing nothing. Really, nothing good came out of my entire childhood. None of it was worthwhile. I was just kind of milling around and wasting away the years of my life, right?
Yeah, but
it
honestly,
just seems like a weird way to frame it.
Honestly, what were you doing at 2 years old, though? I think Baki might have some clarity into this.
Well, no, I was really into trucks at the time and construction equipment. A lot of people are. I hope he wasn't wasting his time.
I see. So you didn't waste your time as a 2-year-old, and so you didn't have to go into cage fighting in a.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I certainly didn't. I certainly didn't feel that way, anyways.
No, I did write that down because that was a great line. Yeah, that's mostly the flashback. So after that, a large, I don't know, do you want to describe the guy who shows up behind them in the middle of the night?
He's the really, he has no pupils most of the time.
Yeah, it comes back occasionally.
I think they said later his name is Spec, and he's just giant, and he has an extremely long face and a pointy, just a long chin, an incredibly long chin, and he's always smiling.
Yeah, he's an upbeat dude.
And he narrates everything he's doing too. He talks a lot.
One of my favorite things doing this show are those type of characters, because when I use clips, it's a lot better when they just describe what they're doing, almost like a radio play.
Yeah, for the podcasting crowd, he's an ideal villain.
You're not mad that I drew first blood. It don't annoy you a little that I just nailed your ass with a sucker punch?
But yeah, so Spec shows up right behind Baki and Kozue, actually right as he's kissing her, so only Baki can see Spec. And then the other main character from the episode, Hanayama, Kaoru Hanayama, I believe is his full name.
Kaoru Hanayama, named boss of the Hanayama gang at the age of 15. Japan's #1 brawler. His credo is, no weapons, no training.
Shows up and then just punches Spec, and they disappear into the night, causing Kozue to remark, "It's such a peaceful, quiet night."
It's so quiet, so peaceful.
Do you think it would have been that quiet if 2 gigantic Goliaths dragged each other away about a foot behind you?
Yeah, I don't really buy it. I don't. Maybe he did just succeed in distracting her from both her own emotions and her sensory awareness of the world around her. So maybe it was very successful by just kissing her.
That could
completely took her out of the world.
And maybe he has a technique where like I think his hands were on her head. Maybe he just puts his hands over her ears so she can't hear anything as it's happening. And
she won't even notice.
A little pro tip for the dating people out there.
I don't really did he have, because I mean I didn't get a good sense of the relative scale of these people, but I assume Baki is a regular sized dude compared to this giant man.
Yeah, I think Baki's probably the average height of a man, maybe 5'5" or something like that.
Okay.
Spec is probably 7 feet tall. He's only the second tallest guy this season, after Dorian. So this episode doesn't have as much jumping around as most of the previous ones. There's really just one plot line for the rest of the episode, which is Spec versus Hanayama. So Scott, just walk me through this fight, and I'll just jump in with my thoughts.
Well, Hanayama just I don't know if I'd say that it's entirely linear, but there's just a bunch of flashbacks to these guys' history, right?
True.
They're oh, Hanayama is this member of a Yakuza clan, and he has all of these tattoos, and I mean, I was kind of like, okay, cool. It's just giving like exposition and stakes building for this fight that's going on, and Hanayama mostly just like sits there and watches the shit get kicked out of himself, apparently for the longest time.
Yeah, he doesn't see much value in blocking or moving or really doing anything. And just gets kicked in the face. Like
He's
10 times.
just a sponge for punishment, really. There's like some bewildered bystanders who are like, what the hell's going on?
Is he even human?
Which one? The yellow giant or the monster in the thong?
And the one is just like, he's being attacked by a monster in a thong, which is good, because the appearance of this guy is like the most... I mean, it would be very off-putting to see a giant man in a thong who's also like incredibly ripped, just like, visibly on steroids, in addition to the fact that he's like 50 feet tall or whatever. It would be quite the sight.
Yeah, so just for some context, Hanayama actually showed up in a nice business suit, very mobster style, and then tore off his entire outfit as if they were tearaway pants, but they weren't. He's just that strong, and decided to fight in just a thong, really.
The thong that he had under his business suit, presumably.
I guess he just wears that every day. It's just in case he needs to rip off his pants and get the shit kicked out of him.
Exactly.
I was going to ask your thoughts on his tattoo, because we spent a large flashback learning about his tattoo, which is a Yakuza tradition for his family. It's specific to him, though. It seems that he didn't like it the way it was, so he went and murdered about 50 people from an opposing crime family, and then with the cuts they had made into the back on his tattoo, he liked the tattoo more afterwards.
And that's how Kaoru Hanayama put the finishing touches on his version of Sentinel Standing.
Beautiful.
I was going to say, do you think his tattoo looked good? And do you think it was worth, like, would you recommend that to somebody who just got a tattoo to go out and slaughter a rival gang?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, if you're in, especially if you think that you might be in an anime show, like, it's a really good way to build up your cred, because otherwise, like, if you don't have a backstory, then really, who are you? You're just some guy.
Yeah.
And it's not worth it at that point.
You're Rob Robinson at that point.
Exactly. Okay, was the bit about the guys having just a knife fight in the middle of the street, was that part of his backstory too? Or I was kind of confused, because I was like, where did this guy with the blonde hair come from?
Okay.
Who is stopping these two, just random hoods from knifing each other?
Yeah, that's a fun one, because like it really has no I don't think that character comes back really, and he didn't have much to do anyway. But in the previous anime before Baki, the big climax was this 38-person martial arts tournament that Baki won, and this, I guess, was one of the mooks who probably got knocked out in the first round. I guess he did exist before. I don't think he did much.
Okay, so I'm not like completely lost for having no sense of what's going on there, beyond the fact that obviously this is the only episode of this TV show that I've ever seen in my life.
No, you would have had no idea if you've watched the previous 4 also. He's also he's a confusing guy. So we're introduced to 2 complete randos fighting each other. Just in the middle of the street. Seems like a lot of people are watching. One guy pulls a knife out, the other guy pulls a knife out, and then Chiharu, I believe is his name,
Chiharu Shiba, leader of a biker gang,
walks in and scolds them for using a knife.
All right, boys, put those knives away.
In his words, by using a knife, you're throwing away the advantage of being at a disadvantage. I thought that was very poetic for a street fighter with King Ghidorah tattooed onto his back.
Well, he also says it like at least 2 to 3 times, in case you didn't think it was poetic. So maybe by the next few times around, you'll be like, yeah, he's got a point. Got away with words.
Yeah. Maybe he's trying to like make it a thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's the disadvantaged guy.
And the I don't these like knife fighters have a very like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo type just bewilderedness.
Yeah, I think I get it.
Yeah, thanks.
What? Just some good classic Clueless guy grunts going on.
Yeah, which is hilarious. Like they just pulled a knife to like kill another guy, and like they just lose all of their gusto instantly. And this guy isn't even half as badass as the other characters in the episode. He's not even 6 feet tall, probably.
Yeah, he's like maybe
6 feet.
you know, a half a head over them.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Exactly.
I feel like that's just there as an allegory to just sort of set the stage for Hanayama's philosophy. I don't know if it touches in this episode. I think his credo is training is stupid, and he just likes to he's just likes fighting people.
But even like when he's fighting people, like most of the time he doesn't really want to fight people, it seems. Like he's just like, yeah, I'll just wait 20 minutes, get, you know, pummeled, and after that I'll just one-shot him.
I'll just continuously punch him in the face. It's truly a beautiful martial art. Okay. On the topic of random breakups to the fight, the Statue of Liberty makes an appearance in this episode. Scott, just walk me through what happened to the Statue of Liberty.
Okay, I was also really reasonably confused by that one. Because it just kind of comes out of nowhere. There's like just like a patrol cop going along. He's dum. And then he sees a poster and starts peeling it up. And he's like, oh, no one ever tells me anything around here. And then it kind of cuts from what I... Am I right on this? Like, it just cuts to... Boom, the Statue of Liberty is like crumbling.
Well, when he pulls off the poster, you can see that there are fist marks, as in somebody's been punching the base of the statue.
Right.
Command center, we got an emergency here. It's a statue. She's falling apart.
And then there are a number of dudes who are just like ratchet strapping the Statue of Liberty back together, being like, okay, we gotta stop this thing from falling apart.
Can I read you the line after they did all of the work to save the Statue of Liberty?
Do it.
Thank you. Job well done. Your efforts have saved the Statue of Liberty from being destroyed. In a way, what you've done means more to the nation than any victory in the theater of battle.
Right. I mean, you know what? They're not wrong. We may as well treat them like the troops.
This November 11th, remember the real heroes who saved the Statue of Liberty from being punched to death by a death row inmate. Yeah, what I was surprised by, and you know, it's always the little things when it's this absurd. So theoretically, Spec came over and for some reason flew to Ellis Island, and for some reason punched the Statue of Liberty so hard that it started to crack. And I buy that.
Where is he usually? Like, where is his set to begin with?
It's set in Tokyo. However, we first met Spec in an underwater submarine prison. So theoretically, he used to live in jail. I don't know if there's a timeline here. It sort of feels like he lived in a submarine jail, flew to Ellis Island, punched the Statue of Liberty, flew to Tokyo to fight Japanese guys.
The Statue of Liberty thing is kind of national treasury, like just being like, okay, we gotta put the American, the American identity, like, you know, just the monuments of this silly old country into the story in order to make people really feel the stakes. It's a lot.
I'm just imagining a remake of like National Treasure with like The Rock, and like it'll be like, we have to punch through the Lincoln Memorial inside. there's a treasure inside.
Why? I mean, that could be National Treasure 3. Like, your guess is as good as mine as to what direction they're taking it.
Here's hoping they get the writers from Baki. But here's my question. Spec punches the Statue of Liberty so hard. Who put up the little blue sheet of cloth over it? And once they removed that cloth, the whole building collapsed. Was that cloth holding together the entire Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Like, where was that cloth when they needed it on 9/11? Like,
oh my god.
That's National Treasure 4.
National
recover this magical cloth that holds everything together.
It's the fabric of our nation right there.
The fabric of the nation.
Oh man.
Yeah, and that beat cop just pulled it up like it was nothing.
Yeah. Who knows where he put it. Anywho.
Really?
All right, that was probably the weirdest segue in Baki so far. Definitely won't be the weirdest overall. I think,
like, are they all like this? Are they all just inserting these random weird storylines?
Well, they definitely do that if there's a fight, especially this season. Okay. I think the show had a low budget, so like fight scenes are pretty high budget. So it's great if you can drop in the narrator talking and like weird shit that you can. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the perfect segue to the next point where we learn about the Tokyo Metro Police for about a minute and a half.
What you're looking at is the official gear and body armor used by the Metropolitan Police Department's Anti-Terror Task Force. The 20 members of the task force are all elite cops. Their special FRP helmets have been verified. They must be at least 5 times stronger than the helmets minimum armor with the latest model style.
And every specification, how they have to be like 5'10" and work out and no judo.
Yeah. Well, that was just like that was just kind of a hype sequence, though, because I think it's basically like, I mean, it feels like it's about playing card like Yu-Gi-Oh characters or something like that, where it's just like every fight you have to build it up and be like, oh, these are the secret attacks, these are the strengths, these are the weaknesses, this is why these guys are badass, because they kind of just like set those guys up to get the shit kicked out of them later.
Yes. Oh yeah, and they get the shit kicked out of them 3 seconds after we learn who they are.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work in a show. Like, maybe it's because I've watched so many episodes, but like, you know, there's different tiers of people. Like, I would say the police are at the bottom. Regular people, the police, Olympic athletes, people who know martial arts. Like,
these are red shirt tier dudes we're talking about. Even though they're kind of like, oh, they have great weapons and training, and they all are at least 5'8".
It would be like if we spent a minute and Captain Kirk just kept talking about like the security team on the Enterprise is top notch. They are all well trained, great attendance. They all have very shiny boots. Like,
well, yeah, because I mean, it's like, do they just take anyone onto the Starship Enterprise? Like, do they have no standards, or are they actually like reasonably well qualified dudes? They're just up against, challenging situations, and they also just sometimes do inexplicably dumb stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be a good talking point on my next podcast, the 600 part Star Trek episode by episode. I'll launch right after this.
Yeah, that one could be a long haul.
But yeah, to answer your question, I would say most episodes of Baki are like this. But this is probably... We've done 5, and I think this is the best one so far. Okay. Or at least my favorite. So top 20%, let's say. So yeah, they talk about the Metro Police. This is the police officer who you might remember from... This is for the viewers. The viewers might remember episode 2, where Spec humiliated him with his intense stream of urine at the urinal. So this police officer is being told how great the Metro Police is, and then shown footage of them just getting absolutely manhandled by Spec.
And he's like, after they finish like hyping them up and be like, oh, they have the best equipment training, he's like, that's enough. I just want to know about why they got the shit kicked out of them. and then he finds out exactly why.
Anywho, I think after that we get into the final stage of the fight. Probably the most uplifting stage, and honestly just a fun, brain-off sort of fight.
Kaoru Hanayama's power had transcended that of the gods.
Where Hanayama, after getting the shit kicked out of him for 5 minutes, just starts punching Spec repeatedly in the face. Man, we didn't even talk about Spec's special move, that he can go without breathing for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, how could you forget about the apnea rush?
Well, what do you think of my apnea rush? Never let up, boy. Which means you won't get the chance to counterattack.
I feel like I don't understand what apnea is. I always assumed it was like related to not being able to breathe when you sleep, like sleep apnea. I never thought of it as like a combat move.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. But apparently it just means the temporary cessation of breathing. In which case, I guess it's like, yeah, okay. He's just not breathing for 5 minutes as he's pummeling away at Hanayama.
I do have to say, I would be intimidated. Well, I'd be intimidated if I saw Spec in real life from 100 yards away. But if he started punching me for 5 minutes straight with no break, I guess that's my real question. Why does he need this? Who has he fought in his life before that he just needed to punch them for 5 minutes straight?
Yeah, I like. There's that, and they just have like a weird explanation where they're like.
Even runners who have practiced anaerobic training for years must still breathe while they run.
Even Olympians who practice apneic running still have to breathe.
Yeah, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope so.
Imagine you're a fucking Olympian and you're just like, I'm gonna do this all without breathing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just don't know how much of an advantage this is supposed to be, because like, I don't know. I've never boxed in my life, but you know, it's like, are you really getting punched like during the pause that you take when you're breathing, or is it more like when you have to do something like wind up? Because it seems like it's more just like he can move his arms like supernaturally fast than it has anything to do with his breathing.
It feels like something that would be a real minor, like super minor thing, like, oh, I breathe, I take in a breath. I can't, I don't think it's one of those things where like I take in a breath and my guard drops and you can now punch me straight in the face. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, I think this would be more useful if he were, for instance, playing the saxophone. But I just don't know how much it helps in the MMA field.
Oh man, if only he hadn't resorted to a life of crime. And honestly, we don't even know what his crime was. Maybe it was just punching the Statue of Liberty. That's not even a violent crime.
No, it's not. I mean, yeah, you could just punch the Statue of Liberty, say, I hate America, and then become a great jazz musician. And that would be a different, more productive, ultimately, arc for his character.
That would be, yep. I'm gonna write that one down for the writers of Baki. Yes, so the apnea rush, I was talking before, why would you ever need this attack? But of course, Hanayama, being a literal brick house, just stands with his arms up, like show me your dukes, and gets hit for what I assume was 5 minutes straight. And then he looks like it's the type of punch Donkey Kong would do. Like, he just winds up slowly and punches the guy in the face, sending him back probably 20 yards, before picking him up, saying, have you had enough?
You had enough yet?
And then doing it again and again. Did you feel inspired watching that segment of the fight?
I mean, I felt a little bit confused, but I guess you could say it's inspiring. Yeah, like no matter how much punishment you take, they never really have you down. You're never at a disadvantage. It's all just in your head. It's what you make of it.
Yeah, and if you are at a disadvantage, you're actually at an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. I think Wayne Gretzky said that.
So, this episode, of course, I have to use this pun, does end on a bang. The final shot of the episode, do you want to just describe this one, Scott?
I think Spec just pulls like a half dozen bullets out of somewhere. And I assume they're really large bullets because these are giant people that we're talking about. And he somehow manages to get them into Hanayama's mouth. And then he punches them in the jaw so that they all detonate. They all go off. And then we get a cut to the credits. And, you gotta wait 10 seconds until they pop the next episode on for you to find out what happens.
So, had enough yet? Yeah. I've had enough.
Yep. Yeah, the episode ends with Hanayama's face literally exploding. Like, you can see all of the light and energy coming out of his mouth and nose and eye sockets. It's probably the best cliffhanger, I think, of the season so far.
Well, I mean, a lot happened in this episode, from what I gather.
It did. It did and it didn't. You know, at the end of the day, this was just one fight between two guys in a park.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just kind of what you see in Vancouver every time you go on the bus.
Hopefully they both aren't... hopefully they aren't, like, two muscular men in thongs. Or one guy in a thong and one in a black spy outfit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of just like, okay, let's have a fight. Let's do this. And make that the whole episode.
So since you didn't watch the next episode, who do you think's gonna win?
I mean, I just like Hanayama doesn't show any blood or bruises or any signs of damage from from being destroyed, like just pummeled nearly endlessly throughout that episode. So I just can't really see these bullets that Spec pulled out of his back pocket as having that much effect on the man in a thong.
Yep, I think that's fair. And I know the answer, so I won't say, but I think we'll find out next week. Or whenever I upload that next episode. All right. So that was the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. I have a few outro questions for you. First off, before I go too far, did you have any unanswered questions? Anything that you wanted to know about what was going on, or did it all make enough sense?
I mean, it all made sense. I don't know what this guy Baki has to do with the incredibly large dudes. I don't know how they got so large. I have literally no context. But I mean, aside from that, not that many questions. And Spec is on death row.
He was, but like, who's gonna catch him? Honestly, you saw what the Tokyo Metropolitan Police could do.
Well, yeah, and it's like, do you have like a 20-foot tall electric chair or whatever for this guy? Like, no.
Yeah, no. Throw him into the ocean or something.
Yeah. You're gonna put him on the same gallows that you used to hang Godzilla? Like, no.
All right. Second question for you. So this is sort of a fun little question that I give to everybody. I'm trying to make like a little encyclopedia of all the characters. So Scott, I figured with this episode, Spec's already been done. So I was hoping if you could define Hanayama for me in just in a brief sentence or two.
I mean, I really like the just random civilian who's like is just like monster in thong for Hanayama. Like, what more do you need to know?
No, I think
I would stick with that. That one's, to me, that's if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
I love it. That's a perfect description of him. And the last question, super important one. Now that you've watched an episode of Baki, do you think that it is a good show?
That's a tough question. I don't watch that much. I don't watch enough anime to know the standards for this genre or the conventions for this genre. After this episode, I'm kind of inclined to say no. But I haven't really given it too much of a chance because I was like, I watched this for 20 minutes and I was like, so there's just like a fight and that's it? Like, what is, is there more to it than that? I just couldn't figure out what more was going on.
Yep, that's a very fair take. And I think you're pretty in line with most of the responses so far. Oh man. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Scott.
No problem.
It's been a blast. I'm sure maybe I'll have you on again someday. I got to get through 50 of these episodes, so.
Yeah, that's a lot of episodes.
Yeah. Oh, and a new season comes out this year, so maybe even more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure in like 5 episodes, the context would not really be any different. Like, I would still be like, I saw 1 episode, but now I have no idea what's going on anyways.
Yep. Oh, don't worry. Jack saw the first episode of this show, and he didn't have any idea what was going on, so.
Perfect. That's admirable on the part of the show writers.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all the Baki that we can talkie. Still working on my sign off, but see you all next time.